All right, so we are 3 hours and 10 minutes into the show, and the entrances for the main event are starting with Jey Uso, and then Roman and Paul, and then the ring introductions, and then Roman Reigns takes the tribal chief. It's not a lay. I can't pronounce the word. I don't even have it written down in front of me. But the red necklace that signifies the tribal chief, he and Jay have a face off, and Roman says, "If you beat me, I give this to you." And then they rang the bell, and that took 12 minutes just to get them in the ring and introduce them. So we are almost 3.5 hours into this thing, and the match starts. And tribal combat, as we have found out the other day on television, is basically no disqualification. Anything goes, lazy booking, but it's a furniture match. I mean, this, to me, this called for the hokiness. How many other times have we said, my God, they've got potted plants set up in the ring, or they've got goddamn the ring is decked out like a Viking ship for preliminary tag teams to fight in, but they come up with tribal combat passed down from the elders, and all we did was go to Home Depot for extra fucking folding chairs and lunchroom tables. Would this not have been the Inoki and Saito island fight type of thing if they were ever going to do it?
Right, which they wouldn't do because they couldn't sell tickets to it, but you would think, like you said, I'm not a big fan of, as you put it, gimmicking up the ring or doing anything like that, but something other than just another one of the matches that everyone has on every show.
But now think about this. They're right next to the river. Detroit is right across the river from Windsor, right? Certainly they could have put a fucking, if not an island, at least maybe a garbage scow in the middle of the river. And the field is not that far away. They could have put it on the big screen. They could have sold 500 VIP tickets on a fucking excursion boat to drive down the river and watch the fight. I don't know.
Well, you'd have to get a floaty for Heyman, A, and B, it may look cool with the idea of the Canadian wildfire red sky coming into play in the background.
Do you think with Heyman's gross tonnage that even if he had water wings and some kind of buoying device that he would counteract the laws of submersible matter and just sink, even if he had pontoons around him?
You know, I'm starting to think you guys are working a program and I don't know about it. His gross tonnage.
Gross tonnage. And you ought to see the stuff is not that gross. He's got more of that. Anyway, so they start this match, and Roman is putting Jay's shit over early, and they go to the floor, and Jay bounces him off the steps, and etc. And by 5 minutes in, and they're taking their time because they know they're going long, the fans are chanting for a table, so Jay just pulls one out. And they were chanting for tables 5 minutes into the main event of a fucking pay-per-view involving the most over guy in the fucking business. That's what we've done to the fan base these days. So Roman then took over and started beating Jay up for the most part, but it was a snail's pace. And I don't know why the first part of this had to go so long when the last part was going to be so complicated over and over. But they got a kendo stick, and Roman wore Jay out with that. But then Jay would come back with, super kicks and splashes. Then Jay got a chair and hit Roman with it a couple times, and then just got out of the ring and started throwing, and threw about 8 chairs in the ring. But it wasn't like when Terry Funk used to go insane and just become a tornado around ringside and throw shit. He was just picking shit up and chucking it in the ring. And the other guys laying there. That's what these matches become. It wasn't, FTR and Jay and Juice went 58 minutes and it didn't seem that long. This seemed twice as long because they were constantly doing something in that match. Whereas in these matches, they do a big stunt. and somebody sells for a minute and a half while the other guy sets up the furniture, and then they move a position a little bit, and then they do another stunt with another piece of furniture or prop. And it just goes on and on. And it's not even knocking these guys as workers. I'd love to see them work. I don't want a goddamn 45-minute movie fight scene. Can you imagine? When you were a kid, well, I don't know if when you were a kid, they didn't watch Westerns anymore. But when I was a kid in the 60s, you'd watch TV, the Western movie. The big saloon brawl would come up, and all the stunt people would be taking the bump off the goddamn balcony through the saloon tables and everything. Did you ever see the sheriff set the table in the right place and then take the fucking heel up the stairs to where that the fucking whores work out of the goddamn saloon to punch him and knock him through the railing so he would take a bump through the table?
I don't remember that specific movie. We had Silverado in the 80s.
Silverado. I'm not talking about cars.
No, the Western. It was the last great Western of that era.
Anyway, so chairs I'm talking about. And again, they're getting the fans booed the referee at one point for clearing the chairs out of the ring so they could actually move around instead of falling in garbage. The announcers were doing the golf commentary over the arrangement of furniture. Well, he's setting up now the second table.
I think the other problem was the crowd was dead. And the crowd was dying more and more. Goddamn
peep.
And it was going so slow. At this point, it became apparent that things were going really slow, and it just kept slowing down and slowing down. It was endless. The crowd they weren't like booing or yelling boring, but they weren't even breathing at various points, it seemed like. And the commentators, there was only so much even they could say. It was taking so long, they ran out of things to say. So there was lots of silence.
I mean, there was one point, the big bump, Jey gave Roman the Samoan drop off the apron through a table, and Roman actually landed on Jey's head. It hurt the guy giving it more than, but they both would sell. And then so they could get a leather strap, and then Jey will whip Roman. But then they fight to the back of the arena like that hasn't been done before. And again, they're in Detroit, for fuck's sake. You can't get stabbed out in a crowd in Detroit. Nobody's got any heat. And Solo comes out and in front of the referee, because it's no DQ, attacks Jey and puts him through the audio table and then drags him and carries him back to the ring. If all this is okay, then why didn't Solo just come out with a baseball bat at the bell? There's a loophole there.
Why doesn't Roman just shoot him?
Well, yeah, but and not only that, in their universe of logic, because now it's Solo gets Jey in the ring and he's continuing to constantly interfere. If it's tribal combat, how is it legal in tribal combat for somebody else to fight for you? It seems like that would be against the rule because they're honorable Samoan people. So I can understand Solo coming out and interfering, but not continuously in front of God and everybody, because then that makes it look like, well, your tribal combat's bullshit. But it's modern wrestling. And then Solo goes for the spike and Roman goes for the spear, but Jey pulls Solo into the spear. And then Jey spears Roman and gets a 2 count. And a big pop because they're still with Jey. They're 30 minutes in. It's a handicap match still. Solo stops him again. But then Solo and Roman start arguing. And while they're looking at each other, Jey spears Roman through the barricade. But Solo clears off the announce desk and goes to rock bottom him through, I think that was either the second or third table. But then Jey comes out and kicks him and splashes Solo through the announce desk. And I wrote, will this ever end? And just then, in the ring, Jey speared Roman and hit the splash off the top and had him covered, and some guy in a hoodie pulls Jey out off the cover, and it's Jimmy. And you called it again, you prick.
And you say some guy in a hoodie. As soon as he appeared, you knew who it was.
Well, yeah, but I don't know about this. One of the Usos, and it may unfortunately be Jimmy, might be Genetti'd out of this. But anyway, So Jimmy then super kicks Jey and rolls him in the ring, and Roman spears Jey through another table and finally gets the 1, 2, 3. So 36 minutes bell to bell, plus 10 minutes of entrances, plus the glorification, celebration, and replays afterwards for almost 5 minutes. This was almost an hour alone. Your final thoughts on this exhibition?
This was brutal, I have to say, and I've been a fan of the Bloodline stuff. Even when I think they're losing me, they pull me back in. I thought this match was horrible. I thought the angle was horrible. This may have been the night the Bloodline jumped the shark. Heyman in the post-show media scrum was saying that this is only the third inning. There's so much more to go. There's so much more to be done. I don't know. And you say I called it. The only reason I called it was it's the same people in this. It's never anyone new being involved in it. So it wasn't like the match is going to happen and Jey will get screwed by wrestler X who we haven't seen before or someone else from the roster. They're going to keep it in-house. And it was Jimmy. And I don't think anyone liked this angle. You know, again, we all completely shit on Cody Rhodes losing to Roman at WrestleMania. And things seem to be okay since then for the Bloodline. But this was bad. This was bad. It was a bad match. It was...
Bad dog. Bad.
It was long as fuck. It just never ended and everything was taking forever. It was so slow. Even, like I said, Michael Cole, who I've never been a fan of, there was nothing he could say. What was he supposed to say? At a certain point, him and Corey Graves, there was nothing to talk about. It was taking forever. And I think after all this, having Jimmy be the one to cost Jey in this manner, I don't know.
So let's summarize this. So you're a set of twins, and your cousin treats you like shit, and your younger brother sides with your cousin, and then finally your cousin hospitalizes one of the twins, so the other twin wants to fight the cousin to get even for what happened to his twin brother. And when he's on the verge of whipping not only the cousin that hospitalized the twin, but has dispatched the younger brother who's on the cousin's side also, the first twin comes out of the hospital and fucks it up for the second twin.
Was he under the ring?
I don't fucking know. They obviously didn't shoot him in however he approached the ring, so it would be a surprise when he was suddenly there. But he may have just hopped the rail in the hoodie. They probably had him hunker down and just fucking go out while everybody's attention down a aisleway over there behind the announce desk while everybody's attention was in the ring.
Man, they got to do something with the Bloodline that's different now. They got to get someone else in the mix. I mean, I was actually hoping after the Cody match, okay, maybe they're going to start going towards Cody and Roman again sooner than later because Cody has so much momentum. After this, I don't know. I got to see what they're going to do on SmackDown, I guess, but bad match. Long, endless, bad match.
And that's the thing. We're not shitting all over the angle, and everybody's been interested in it. And we still want to see what's going to go on, although we are starting to be afraid that they may be pushing it a little bit. But this match was not, it could have been half the length, and it probably would have gotten over better with that crowd that had already been sitting there for hours and hours. But to watch on television, it was like, oh, shit.
It may be the third inning, but it's not an official game until you get to the fifth inning. Maybe this one will be called on rain or something. I don't know.
I was about to say, what's the weather forecast up there? Is it going to be rained out?
I don't know, but oof. And again, on the other hand, they're breaking all these records everywhere they go. They're making more money and drawing more fans than they have in years. And everything is just, other than, the Vince federal investigation, everything is just wonderful up there. And it's Roman Reigns on top. So, we're criticizing this. We'll see if fans react to it or if they're just going to tune in to see how WWE recovers from this. Or I say recovers, in my eyes. What they
imagine if they had the means of distribution, the internet and the streaming and the rights fees and everything related to that today, while having the roster of stars of the Attitude Era with Austin, Rock, Foley, Mankind, Taker, blah, 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 and were selling the amount of live event tickets because there was that level of interest from people, multiple millions of people, it would be incredible. But as I'm afraid that wrestling, again, is subsisting on an unsustainable model, because it seems like that there have to be more delivery and distribution methods created and more revenue streams opened up to compensate, and more money coming per capita from each interested fan to compensate for the people that just don't fucking watch this anymore in such large numbers. You imagine if we had the amount of fans that we had 25, 30 years ago, along with the ways to monetize it that we do now.